Sanjay, what's good, man? We're
What's
here.
happening,
It's
bro?
it's Friday. It's Friday night. We always enjoy this night since
We
we
do.
started our weekly Fan Friday call-ins. I'm Hunter Doyle here from Philly Insider Podcast. This is Sanjay George next to me, my co-host. And yeah, we've got some Philly sports talk for you guys.
Oh, we do.
Sixers stuff going on last night. Big win last night. We'll get into that. Eagles general offseason. Always stuff to be talking about there for sure. And yeah, I mean, we appreciate. We already had some of you guys in the chat. I mean, I was 15 minutes late, but you guys are still here rocking in the chat with us. So we appreciate Coach Dante, Philadelphia Eagles pod. It's been a minute since I've seen you, man. Good to see you in here. Sterner, as always. Thank you guys for being in here. So yeah, if you guys don't know, basically we're going to drop the link. We do ask that your cameras are off. We know most of you guys, but just for safety purposes, because we did have something happen one time. And
Sure.
cameras off, and then give us a go birds in the private chat, and we'll bring you on the stream. We'll ask you some questions. You guys can ask whatever questions you got for us too, or any topics you want to go over. But yeah, so yeah, Sanjay, how are you feeling today, man? How are you? First off, before we get into this, like, how are you feeling about the Sixers win last night, going into the All-Star break?
So I actually was watching that. I watched the entire first half, and I had to go to bed early because I had to wake up early this morning. So I was like, let me at least get the shower done, so right after the game I can just crash. So at half, I got into the shower, and then something kept me up with like family for a little bit. But anyway, I get back at the fourth quarter, and things are tight all the way down the stretch, man. My dad was in the same. My dad was doing the dishes in the kitchen, which is right next to where our TV is in the living room. And then he was watching me react to the game, and he just goes, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" Because I was getting so emotional towards the end. We were making it so close. And a big win in a big way. And I repeat, we just beat the previous year's champions with pretty much all their key players healthy. I think they're missing like Brooke Lopez. I think that's it.
Yeah, they had Drew, Giannis, and Chris. So
we beat them without James Harden. Yeah, you heard that. Without James Harden. And there's some weird trends.
With Coach Harden.
With Coach Harden. Coach Harden was important in the end, man. Coach Harden, he's scheming up there. But there's more into that we'll get into, I'm sure, as we go throughout the call-in. But I'm going to just leave it at, it was exciting, man. I'm going to leave it at that for now.
Yeah, that was a fun game, man. I caught the second half. Dude, I'm telling you, those halftime showers, though, like you be in there for like 2 minutes, and then by the time you're out, they're already like in the fourth quarter. It's crazy,
true.
man.
It is.
No, fun game, man. Like, it was really encouraging to see the team bounce back after Tuesday night, which was, I'm sorry you were at that game, man.
The turnaround was insane. Just insane.
Yeah, I almost went last night, but after what happened Thursday and the fact I wanted really to go because I thought Harden was going to play when I was looking at the Milwaukee tickets. I just didn't really want to make the trek up just in case. But in hindsight, being 2020, it would have been a good decision. So, and I'm glad it ended up that way. So, yeah, I don't know. Should we drop the link in the chat?
Let's do it. Go ahead. We got some guys to get in here.
Put in there. Let me put the directions in there too. You can talk about whatever while I'm doing that.
There's some fun. At some point, I'm sure we got to discuss it with some people who like call in about the Sixers. But like, man, I got to be honest. Our bench has really stepped up in the absence of missing Seth, missing Drummond. I was really worried about how the depth on this team could possibly change. But what I failed to realize was we have so many, because of running, this is the only good thing about Doc constantly running such a high rotation in terms of how many players he subs out and subs in at any given point. One of the good things is pretty much every guy on our bench has gotten a decent amount of playing time at any point throughout the season. There's nobody really left on our bench who actually plays decent minutes who hasn't already had a bunch of experience, a bunch of plays, whether that's down the stretch in various games against various teams, on the road, at home. All these guys have a lot of experience under their belts, and they're all used to playing in this offense. They're used to having to run these games themselves. Like, that's pretty much, I didn't really think about that, but our bench has really stepped up because of it. They have the experience on them, as I've already said like 8 times, and they have confidence. I think that's something I'm a big critique of Doc's, like all bench rotations or all bench in 1 or 2 starters. I really am. Point being, I'm a big critique of that. But one thing I can't deny is it gives the bench confidence because those guys know. They're like, I'm going to do what I do. Every one of those dudes is not out there to spell minutes for the starters. They are out there to build on the lead and keep punching and keep hitting. They don't view themselves as a break. Our bench views themselves as just another extension of this team. They view themselves as we are going to do as much damage as we can while we are out here. And I love that attitude from them, man. I got to say, I'm a big fan of Bench Mob.
Facts. Well, we got a couple callers here in the back stream already. First off, we're going to go with the guy. He was first and probably one of our biggest supporters since day one. Big Play Slay. What's going on, man?
Doing,
and tell us how you're doing and what you want to talk about, my guy.
Hey, what up, fellas? How y'all doing? I'm doing good, man. What's up, Hunter and Sanj? How are y'all doing? I'm just doing great, man. It's good. Off season so far for the Eagles, of course. And obviously I'm not a Sixers fan, but I can tell you guys are very excited with the Harden stuff. But yeah, man.
Our condolences for your Lakers, my guy. Our condolences.
Yeah.
AD hurt again last night. I saw. I think.
Mm-hmm. I'm realistically at the point where it's like I have to trade him. Like, there's no reason to keep him on the team. Because obviously that was a freak injury and that could happen to literally anyone in this league. It does not matter who you are, but like it's happened so much times throughout the past where it's like he keeps on getting injured. It just doesn't matter. He's gonna get injured one year or another. So it's like we have to trade him at some point because LeBron James isn't getting any younger, and if we want to contend, what's the point of keeping a player on the team that's never going to be like helping us at all? Like, he's not gonna contribute. Like, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, very talented player. I mean, when he's healthy, he might legitimately be a top 5 player in this league. But there's a difference between when you can't go out there like every single game consistently to where you could just go out there. You don't got to worry about anything. Like, it don't matter. Like, just you could just go out there.
The best ability is availability, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So I personally would like to, trade away him for like a couple of picks because I'm at the point where it's like at this point we're in a stage where we have to rebuild. I don't expect LeBron James to be on this team for any longer. I think he leaves by next year. At the end of next year.
Is his deal up this year or the next year?
I think it's up next year, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
Back on that.
Yeah. I would personally like to get rid of AD. It's nothing against him. It's just, injuries and setbacks.
You could definitely grab a lot. Some team, no matter how injury prone, and I don't like slapping players with the injury prone label because I think sometimes it's overdone. But AD has definitely earned it, in my opinion. And despite him being injury prone, as I just said, I'm sure you guys could get a haul from any team looking to contend. You can't tell me there's no team who's not looking for Anthony Davis. That's whether the risk or not. You have to go in on that.
Right. I mean, I've seen the Warriors, like, there's been rumors about that. I've seen it here and there.
Make the Warriors dynasty a thing again.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't mind that because if we can get Wiseman out of that deal and a couple other players on that team, I honestly wouldn't mind that because you might get picks and you might get a good big man that can be there for the future. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would take for sure, but it is still AD. I'm not going to just give up one of the best players in the league when healthy and not get something in return for him, So it's Fair enough. For me, I would do that. But hey, what do you guys think about so like the going into the draft right now for the Eagles? Just like in terms of the offensive side.
Hunter, you might want to lead with this, bro, because I don't know anything about the draft right now.
Yeah, good question. So on the offensive side, you and me have talked about a Big Play Slay. The need for an X receiver is a big thing, whether you get it in free agency or the draft. You got to find a guy, whether it's, even like, Michael Gallup on a 1-year prove-it deal has been talked about coming off of the injury, kind of like we did with Alshon. We gave him a 1-year prove-it deal after he had a number of injuries in Chicago. I think Michael Gallup's a little more athletic than Alshon might have been, but it's still calculated risk. And then you have, in the draft, you got a guy like Traylon Burks, who I'm a big Traylon Burks fan.
Yeah.
But there's other guys there like Drake London. I know you're a big fan of him. I love him too. And there's David Bell from Purdue. I'm a big fan of him.
Yep.
Guys like that, like even maybe not the tallest receivers in the draft, like they're at the right size. And people even for whatever reason said Chase wasn't the biggest guy. I mean, he's not really that small, but whatever. There's guys like his size that'll produce for you, not at the same level as him, but who can kind of fill that boundary extra. So, and honestly, like, you always look to fill the trenches. Kelsey's reportedly coming back for another year, but if you can find that guy who can maybe next year, it's kind of year by year thing.
Shout out to Luke Juriga.
Yeah, sure. Dude, man. I was talking to someone about Western Michigan today, but rest in peace, Luke Juriga, man, my guy. But
he's not dead. He's just off the team.
you always look to find guys in the trenches who Lane's not going to be here forever, and then this isn't tight end 2 I think is also a need you want to address on maybe day 2 or 3, and this isn't the biggest need obviously because running backs you have plenty of them, but I always think it's good to have a good depth chart of running backs. So maybe finding a guy like a Breece Hall from Iowa State, who maybe not might go.
Charlie Collier. I don't see him slipping, but Charlie Collier, I can see him slipping. Maybe.
Yeah, tight end, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, another guy like big target, red zone guy. You want to find someone who can block a tight end as well. So like even running back, I'm not opposed to adding there just because of Miles. It's not guaranteed beyond year 4 with him. Jordan Howard, we'll see if they re-sign him or not. And then beyond that, it's like Boston. We know what Boston can do, but maybe they upgrade from him. And then Kenny, I think, is kind of the one. Like weirdly enough, I think he's like the one kind of future piece you have there. So that's one I'm thinking about.
If Sirianni ever plays him,
yeah, I think point being, Big West, I think like there's a kind of like a need to fill everywhere that like kind of almost warrants a best player available pick if you're going to go offense.
Right. I see. For me personally, I agree with you. Just out of that group, it's always good to just have a playmaker. It really doesn't matter about the size. If he can play ball, then he can play ball. Like that's really for any player at any position. Like you don't really have to be small or tall. Like you could be the biggest guy in the field, but you're probably the slowest guy on the field, and you could be the shortest guy on the field, but you're the smallest guy, and compared to the other bigger guys on the field. But it's just like if you can play ball, you can play ball. That's just how I look at it. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say one real quick thing before I get off here, because I know there's already other people waiting in the backstage. I just want to give my early NBA Finals prediction to see how right or wrong I am. So
go for it, man.
Real quick before you go, we will clip this Big Play Slay.
Yeah, I'm gonna see how right or wrong I am. Let me see. All right, so for me from the East, I'm gonna start off with the West, actually, because you guys are Sixers fans. I'm gonna make it real interesting.
All right,
out of the West, it's definitely between the Warriors and the Suns. I mean, those are the 2 best teams in the West right now. Let's just face it. I would go with the Warriors if I'm thinking about that matchup, just in terms of like, Clay and Curry in like crucial situations. But you can also say the Suns because of matchup situations, and how like they have size over the Warriors.
They do.
They have Wiseman, of course, but Wiseman's just one player where you could put him at center or power forward, where Ayton can like really guard him anywhere. But I would go with the Warriors out of the West. East, I mean, realistically, I'm gonna go with the Nets. I'm sorry, like
wow. It's okay, Slay. It's okay. I'm just waiting. See, Slay, I'm sorry to cut you off, man, but you're forgetting one key factor. We traded a ticking time bomb to the Nets. Bum Simmons.
I mean, that's very true. But that team, if they're healthy, which, I mean, some of those games where Kyrie can't go like home and stuff because, all that, him and probably Ben Simmons, they can't go to a couple home games this year. That could be a major issue into their record. But, I mean, when it comes to the playoff standings, that record stuff won't matter because it's just playoffs. You're 0-0. And I think just in terms of matchups, shooting, in terms of like, defense, and just like scoring ability, I think the Nets have all of that, and they don't have that bad of a head coach. They can beat you in a lot of matchups and key situations, and that's no slouch on the Sixers. The Sixers are a really good team. That's no disrespect towards the Sixers. I have it being the Nets and the Sixers, but I just think the Nets are just a better team. I'm gonna say 4. Maybe I'm gonna say 4-3. 4-3 Nets in that series. But yeah, man, I'm gonna head out. Appreciate y'all for having me on. It
Thank
was
you.
good talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Always good to have you on, Sly.
Hopefully, I'm right about that prediction, but hopefully it's the Lakers and not the Warriors. But y'all have a good night.
You
Have a
too,
good
Big
night,
Play
my
Slay.
man. Take
Thank
care.
you so much for hopping on. And you know what, Sanjay? That is an interesting point that Slay makes. That while I would like to believe that we'll just win by playing Hack-a-Ben if we do play the Nets in the playoffs,
It's true.
you know, look, I mean, we say it a bunch of times in the chat. You know, half a shoe size away from ECF last year.
KD is the ultimate equalizer, man.
Yeah, and look, no offense to the Hawks, they had a cakewalk to the ECF. They played the Knicks, and then they played a Sixers team that self-imploded. They didn't beat us; we beat ourselves, and we saw it when the Bucks lost the first game and then 1-6, right? I think it was. So, you know, I think the Nets probably similar outcome. They probably, you know, maybe you disagree with me, but I think similar outcome. Nets probably win that series in 6 against the Hawks and then go to the finals. So. You know, he's got a point there. Like they still have. I think you've said it a ton of times. KD is the X factor. Like it's not even a question. And X factor is putting it lightly. The guy
There's no way to guard that.
single-handedly
There just
put them in the finals.
He's the best pure scorer that I've gotten to see in my lifetime. Like in my time of really following basketball, with all the stars, you had some weakness in their game. You could target them on the defensive end. You can't do any of that with Kevin Durant. Like, not a single thing. He's not weak from the free throw line. He can do mid-range, three-point. He can drive. He can put the ball on the floor. He can pass. Yeah, even on defense, he's not, like, strong, but, like, he's tall enough and quick enough where unless you, like, just straight body him in the post, which is hard to do because he's got those long arms up there too, he can put in some big work on the defensive end also. That man is one of the most complete players I've ever seen. And if there ever was an equalizer for the NBA, it's got to be him and LeBron. Those two they can bring a team out of nothing into something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. Well, we've got another caller in here, Coach Dante. What's going on, brother? How you doing? And what do you want to talk about tonight, man?
Hey, what's good, man? Long time no see from y'all, man. How y'all doing today, man? Last time we talked was before the Eagles playoff game, before we went to bed against Tom Brady. I had a feeling we was gonna really do that, and my results were right. I said we were losing that game. My results was right after that. My results was right.
That was a tough day.
Oh man.
Well, I want to elaborate on the Eagles and the Sixers, but I'm gonna get to Big Play Slate point. I understand Kyrie. They play. Ben Simmons adds another defensive specimen. But the problem is what happens if you get in a half court set against Ben Simmons. That can be a lot of trouble. Plus, he doesn't. If Ben Simmons switched to play the 4, I believe he'd be more successful playing the 4 than the 1. Because you still out there can play 5-on-4 ball. And another problem I have, Kyrie can't play home games. So how much that's going to impact the series.
Can Kyrie play here in Philadelphia?
No, I think he could. He can play in Philadelphia, but he can't play home games. So that's going to have a big impact on how Brooklyn plays. And then Kevin Durant, they're going to try to take him away. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if Brooklyn make it, but I just don't know if Brooklyn going to make it. I feel like they're going to need Kyrie Irving to play in those games to take a lot of pressure off Kevin Durant. Yes, you got Steph Curry. Yes, you do got DeAndre Drummond who can get boards. And Curry is not a reliable defender. So again, hey, somebody's got to take pressure off Kevin Durant. And I believe with Kyrie Irving in the fold, they will have a great chance of winning the championship, going to the NBA Finals. That was my pick in the Eastern Conference, going to the NBA Finals. If all that team stayed together and that team didn't have no Harden issues, that was gonna probably be my pick to beat Milwaukee. And if they even had a healthy James Harden last year, they would have probably beat Milwaukee. If James Harden was even healthy, even 100% healthy, I think they would probably beat Milwaukee. But that shows how good Kevin Durant is. He almost beat that team by itself. That shows how great he is. But
half a shoe size away, man.
Yep, just half a shoe size. His foot was a little bit too big up on that. But other than that, I think the Sixers, I think both teams want to trade. But I want to elaborate on Harden a little bit because, like, even though his Houston days, people seem to disrespect him in a type of way. And I understand people have their opinions. I completely understand if you don't think he's that good. But how can you tell me a player is not good? First of all, people are going to elaborate. What has he done? He hasn't won a championship. Okay, so let's put Charles Barkley. How great Charles Barkley was. Did he win a championship? I wouldn't think so. I don't think he won. We can go to it. We can go how great T-Mac was. He's a Hall of Famer. Has he won? I don't think he's won a championship. We can go on and on. The great Patrick Ewing with the Knicks. How great he was. He's a Hall of Famer. He's top 50, right? Has he won a championship? Okay, we can go on and on. Karl Malone, John Stockton, the greatest backdoor front court duo ever. Have they won a championship? No, they're Hall of Famers, right? So I can understand. So it's many great players that
the overvaluing of a ring is definitely something that just goes on too much.
That, and you can't use that narrative. James Harden to the NBA Finals with the OKC Thunder, the youngest dynasty that you can ever think about. Think about if James Harden didn't play great against Dallas, if he didn't play great in that San Antonio series, I don't think the Thunder would have went to the finals. But what happened the very next year? They trade him to get none other than my Houston Rockets. Have the OKC Thunder been to the finals since? No, they have not. If James Harden would have been on that team, if James Harden would have been on that Western Conference Finals team with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, I think they beat the Golden State Warriors during that series. I don't think Golden State comes back from 3-1. So what have he done with the Houston Rockets? Oh, we never missed the playoffs with his 10-year tender. We didn't never miss the playoffs. Every year this guy got better. Yes, he's a dick outside the court. Yes, when things don't go right, he can be an asshole. Yes, and I completely agree with that. He's unprofessional. You be a professional regardless if nothing is great going your way, and he has some tendencies for to go whine and complain. I need this and that. Yes, but you can't take away his greatness. You cannot take away how good the man is on the court. This man has some weight issues, and he still go out there. And drop 20 and 10. He still goes out there. He had weight issues. He come in out of shape and still go out there and perform. Don't you know how hard it is to perform out of shape and being tired? That's how great James Harden is. But I think both teams helped each other out, though. I don't know if it's going to work with Harden and Embiid. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not. The only thing about Harden, if you go back to what he had, the Harden playing style, he loves pick and roll basketball. That's when Harden excels as the most. Dwight Howard, Kevin McHale gets fired from Houston. Kevin McHale was a big post player. He was everybody know Kevin McHale that played from Boston, the great Kevin McHale. Kevin McHale used to give him the ball in the post to Dwight Howard. So Kevin McHale gets fired. JB Biggerstaff's run the offense to Harden, which Dwight Howard turns into a pick and roll type guy. And Dwight Howard doesn't like that. Dwight Howard was never a good post player anyway. He was always above the rim player anyway. So again, go back to Clint Capella. That's Clint Capella's game. Someone that don't ask for the ball, that loves doing his job. And James Harden is a big fan of pick and roll. He either got a layup or it's a lob. But Joel Embiid, that's different. Joel Embiid needs the ball in the post. He needs the ball in the post. So how would James Harden be able to react knowing that Joel Embiid needs the ball in the post, knowing that he needs his touches, knowing that the ball is not going to be in his hands all the time? And Tyrese Maxey, that guy's a stud, man. That guy's a walking bucket. I've been knowing that guy since I've been watching that kid since Kentucky. That guy is really good, man. To step up like that after getting beat by 48, to step up to come in against a championship team in an environment and score 42 against a great team like that. That's a lot to ask for. And Joel Embiid, what more do I got to say about him? He's the goddamn MVP of the league, in my opinion, at this moment right now, to carry this team on his back and have to face consistent double teams and everybody else have to step up and make a shot. I really like what Joel Embiid is doing. I really like what the bench is doing so far.
We love bench mob over here, Coach Dante. We are big supporters of bench mob over here.
I'm just eager to see how James Harden and Joel Embiid have worked, and with James Harden giving the ball to Joel Embiid in the post. I know they're going to mix it up, run some pick and roll, some pick and pop, because Joel Embiid can shoot. I know they're going to mix it up. But like I say, I'm concerned about Harden issues. If things don't go right, I'm concerned about that. I'm convinced because he quit on two teams. So what say you can trust him not quitting again if things don't go right. So that's the thing the Sixers fans got to look out for when things not breaking right. How do we react? But Daryl Morey got him over there. He's a Daryl Morey guy. You think about what Daryl Morey did from in Houston. He got James Harden anything you want. How much that relationship is going to play out. And Daryl Morey went hard to get James Harden in the offseason. He had to trade between Houston and to send James Harden to Philadelphia, but that was Houston fault. That wasn't the Sixers fault. That was Houston fault. They blocked that. They didn't want to trade. They didn't want to trade away James Harden over there, knowing that Daryl Morey left them. They didn't want to trade him over there. That was Houston. That was Houston fault. But it's good to get him now than back then. Yeah. And another thing about the Eagles, in a draft, I know we need linebackers. So if Devin Lloyd is there, I'm taking Devin Lloyd. That's no discussion. I'm gonna take him. I think not by far. I think I still a Nakobe Dean guy. Taking Nakobe Dean if he's there. I'm still up on the par if he's there to take him. But if Devin Lloyd is there and Nakobe Dean is not, I'm gonna take Devin Lloyd. Devin Lloyd can do everything. He can pass rush. He can cover. He can go sideline to sideline. He's a very sure tackler. And I say receiver wouldn't be bad as well. Treylon Burks. But who knows? Treylon Burks might be off the board by the time he get to us.
Yeah, but I think the combine is going to boost him off the boards.
Yeah, I definitely think the combine is going to – I think he's going to have a very good combine. I think he's going to have a very good combine. I think don't be shocked if he goes to Atlanta, because Atlanta will look to get a receiver because they don't know the Calvin Ridley situation. They don't know that situation. So don't surprise if a receiver go off the board, and that may be him. But yeah, man, I just came in. I know y'all got somebody backstage to show my support. I will be in the chat, man. So shout out to you guys. Keep up the good work. I will be in the chat, man.
Appreciate it, Coach Dante. Yes, sir. Give you a little Harden 360 with the wrist before we let you go. he just was out and gone right after that. But I don't think he was expecting that. But
before we bring the next guy in, I got a quick point to make regarding what Dante was saying about Harden, how he plays on the ball. And remind you, it is about his personality is a whole different thing. That's a valid concern.
While you're making that point, I'll be back in 1 minute.
I got you. Towards like Harden's personality, I can't really refute anything about that. It's just a fact. Like Dante said, he's quit on 2 teams in the past years. And nobody over here going to try to defend that. It just is what it is. He quit on them. Whether you want to argue, put on the fat suit, put on the weight, whatever. He was like tanking. He wanted to get traded, and he just basically threw a fit until he did. So his personality aside, I can't argue that. I do want to address the issue of his play style with Embiid's play style. Because the whole big thing is they're both very ball-dominant players. They need to get their matchups. They need to get involved with the ball. And the question is, I don't think it's debatable. No offense to Harden, but at his current stage in his career, Embiid is the better player. So Embiid has to go first. And then the issue then becomes, what does Harden do? Can Harden facilitate and be a second scoring option? And my answer to that is he already has proved that he can do that, because he did it with the Nets last year with KD. He was not the first scoring option on that team. He made sure to get, even when Kyrie was there too, or whoever, he would honestly play with the bigs. He played with the forwards. Harden just got people involved. He's not an amazing passer. Like, no one's ever going to accuse him of being a floor general. But the thing about Harden is he's so good in playing one-on-one ball that inevitably you have to draw the double. And he is a student of the game. I give him his credit for that. I personally don't enjoy watching his game that much. I don't like the style of it, but I respect what it does on the court. And that as soon as he gets that double, he knows instinctively where to go. It's not like Embiid. You see Embiid when he gets doubled, tripled, he has to like swivel his head a bit. There's very few times where Embiid just like gets the double and passes immediate, just because it's not the biggest part of his skill set. With Harden, it's on site. He sees the double. He's like, this is where it is. Ball's already gone to the shooter or to the cutter in the lane. And the other big thing about those two is you cannot play doubles on both of them. That's just not possible. You can't double both James Harden and Joel Embiid. And what are you supposed to do with either one of those guys in one-on-ones? That is asking to be toasted. So that's another big thing. I just want to say that. In regards to Harden's personality, I can't defend it. But schematically, I think there's a lot of hope for those two in terms of actual play style fit.
Yeah. Well, with that said, we got a guy who's got a new profile picture with the man himself right there, JoJo. We got Sterner on here. Sterner, tell us how you're doing, man. And yeah, tell us how you're feeling after that big win last night.
What's good, bro?
It's good. I'm doing pretty well. How about you guys?
We're
Doing
doing
okay
good.
over here.
Thank you for asking.
So my take on the win last night, it just proves that with Harden we can win. I know that we didn't win Tuesday, but I made a point. Like I tried to make a point on
Sorry
social
to cut you
media.
off, Sterner, but Troy, I see you added that kind of in there. Don't tell me you're coming around, Troy. Don't tell it. The more Moss side accepts all people. Come to us, man. If you're feeling it, feel free to come on over.
Everyone, Troy usually comments that Furkan just straight up sucks, but he said kinda today. So
sorry, Sterner.
Anyway,
Didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead,
Sterner.
bro.
Hey, you're good. But like I was saying, with the loss Tuesday, like I that was terrible. But with the loss Tuesday, like it was the first time that we played with Miller side. I mean, Shake just came off injury, and Matisse just came off an injury last week. So like that was like a game like to get us all back together so that we can like a rhythm game, like get us back in rhythm. Thursday yesterday proved that we can win without James Harden, and just when we add Harden in there, it's just gonna make us better. But also, it depends if Harden wants to be a team player or if he wants to be a ball hog, which he has the likelihood of doing both.
Agreed. Yo, what's up, Grandizer?
I thought you were gonna say something, Sanjay.
No, like I was just gonna kind of like agree with what he said. Like I don't really have a whole lot to add to it. Like I think without Harden, we already showed how talented we are, and with Harden, it's just kind of like shoving us right over the edge into contention. It's exactly what we hoped it'd be, frankly.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think you guys both hit the nail on the head right there. I'll ask you this, Sterner, too. In terms of kind of pushing us over the edge, who do you think, we had Big Play Slay on here talking about the Nets earlier. Who do you kind of view as some of the biggest threats to the Sixers and hurdles to overcome when playoff time comes? Now we're kind of at that, not halfway point, but we're at the All-Star break where we kind of have an idea of where teams are at. Who do you think is kind of a threat to the Sixers come playoff time?
Well, the first team that pops to my head immediately is the Boston Celtics. Like we just got blown out by them. Like we're usually even with them every year, but I think they beat us 2 or 3 times already this season. I will say this right now: I am not scared of Chicago. We swept them so far this year, 3-0 against them so far, and I think March 7th will go 4-0 against them, sweep in this regular season. Another team that I think the Sixers need to worry about are the Celtics, or not the. I already said the Celtics, are the Heat. The Heat are going to be a team to struggle to get by, but I think we can shut them down with the new with the new addition of James Harden. And my third team that I'd be mostly scared of is probably the Cavs. I'm not scared of the Hornets. I'm not scared of the Knicks. I'm not scared of any of these guys near the cut, except for the Celtics. I mean, the Nets, they're not going to be an issue, really. I mean, Simmons can't score. The only way he scores is layups and dunks. Drummond's a rebounder. Durant, he gets hurt and missed every other game, so the
injury concern should also be noted that definitely exists for Kevin Durant. I don't think enough people talk about that. I just think we operate under the assumption that he will be healthy.
Yeah. And I think if our biggest concern, if we play the Nets, well, when we play the Nets, because we are going to play them, but when we play the Nets, our biggest concern is Curry.
Is what? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Our biggest concern is Curry if and when we play the Nets in the playoffs.
Curry. That is true. Because, you do have to draw doubles on a lot of guys. You got to be able to shift defense. And Curry's going to get open looks. But the other thing to be considered is, while I understand shooters go up and down, it can't be denied. Curry's had a down year this year.
Yeah, he had a down year compared to the last year and the year before. I mean, Curry, he keeps getting worse and worse on the scale. But when he got traded to Brooklyn, he was putting up 20 to 30 points right away. And he put up 30 the other night, and they still lost to Washington. 117 to 103. Curry, like, but we said it before. You guys said it before. Curry is good in the playoffs. Like when it comes to playoff time, Curry gets his head in the game.
Superior Curry.
hmm So that's probably the only thing I'd be scared of when it comes to playoff time. But in any other situation, I mean, I don't see the Nets beating us at all.
I got you, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I want to ask you kind of this to round off, Sterner, one last question. Granddaughter's kind of mentioned in the chat. We talked about Russell Wilson last week. There's been some Jimmy G talk this week. I'll just ask you a general question, though. What do you kind of think, your opinion, do the Eagles stick it out with Hurts in year 3, or are they going to play the QB market and find someone or find someone in the draft this year and move on from Jalen Hurts?
So I actually made this point on Instagram the other night. I said that I was on the Hurts train, but I hopped off after the end of last season. Like, that went terrible. I mean, like, I think it's their defense that did miss the work, but I also don't know if that's like the coaching staff or him himself, or if it's the offensive line. Like, there's plenty of people that you can blame, but one piece is missing. One piece is missing, and if we fill that piece, I think we could do good. Like, it's either the offensive line or the coaching staff. I believe Hurts does have the mentality to be a good quarterback, but I don't know. I don't know if it, like I said, I don't know if it's the coaching staff or Hurts or the offensive lineman. But as of right now, I'm not all in on Hurts.
Agreed.
Gotcha.
There's definitely concerns to be had.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a fair place to be for sure. But Sterner, we want to thank you for calling in again, like you do every Friday. We appreciate you, man. And any last words before we let you go?
I appreciate you guys. You guys are the best, man. Sincerely.
Hey, we appreciate you, dog. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you, Sterner.
All right, you too.
Appreciate it.
Man, to this point, nobody can doubt the mentality of Jalen Hurts, but you got to ask the question of, is the talent there?
Mm-hmm. I just want to touch on what he said last there, man. You guys make this possible. I mean, we're not having a call-in show unless you guys call in. So, that means a lot to hear that from Sterner, who's literally been subscribed since like around playoff time, and just always talking, like giving us compliments and just talking about our show, and really it's just great to hear that. It's great to hear that feedback, and we appreciate you guys more than you guys know. So I just wanted to say that, not to switch.
Amen to that, but no, for real.
Yeah, but
always shout out the fans, dog. Always.
Yeah, for real though. We got another caller back in here. Sam Shady Sports. He's been waiting for a minute. More of an Eagles football guy. Sam, tell us how you're doing, man, and what do you want to talk about tonight, my guy?
I'm doing great. Obviously, I want to talk Eagles. I'm not much of a basketball guy, as I told you behind the scenes. But
all good, Sam. We cover it all out here.
Cool. But I wanted to add to what Sterner said right before he got off there. You guys are kind of like, how do I want to put this? The rest of us that are just starting out look up to you guys. You have great quality product, and everybody loves watching it. You talk about great subjects. You're constantly putting out top quality stuff, and honestly, like, the rest of us are just striving to be like you guys right now. So I appreciate you putting out a great example for the rest of us.
Yo, man, dang, I'm blushing out here. Easy,
very humbling.
Very humbling. Can't have me blushing out here.
Very, very humbling.
We appreciate you, Sam, for real.
Hey, it just respect where it's due. That's all.
Hey, dude. A lot, man. Hunter's been talking about the draft, man. And now, me personally, I got a lot of stuff going on school-wise right now, and I will throughout the rest of the spring, especially going into summer. So I'm not really going to be able to size up too much in the draft. So for a guy like me, and for other Eagles fans who just, for whatever reason, haven't had time to look into the draft, bro, what are you looking? Give me some prospects. Throw some names out there for me. So if somebody brings this up, I can throw a few names out there, try and BS my way through the conversation. Give me some player names, who the Eagles are rumored towards. Give me some draft talk, bro. What do you got?
Well, I think the first person that I'm definitely going to be wanting to target, hopefully with the first pick we have, number 15, would be ironically Tyler Linderbaum. I know that's kind of an odd pick for everybody considering he plays center, but I think with Brandon Brooks retiring, we need to fill that center spot because Landon Dickerson's going to end up playing the guard spot. And he's no longer going to be the incumbent at center when Kelsey retires. So drafting a guy like Linderbaum right now and letting him learn the offense for a season and add depth for a season, since Kelsey's missed time the past couple years, it just makes sense. As far as other prospects we could potentially go with there.
Real quick, Sam, I do want to ask you, just not to cut you off, but I do want to ask you off of that. You talk about Landon Dickerson. I 100% agree with you. I think he's comfortable at left guard now. You have him there. And I don't want to make, what's the saying? Broke. If it ain't broke,
don't fix it.
So what do you think we do with Sayamalu in that regard? Do you think he's kind of a trade piece? Do we try to move him around a little bit? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I think he's also going to stay at guard. I think they're going to keep him long term. If I remember correctly, I was looking at his cap number, and I think they can only save about $5 million if they trade him. Which I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a good chunk of money, but at the same time, who are you going to replace him with for that money you're saving? And it's quite honestly, you're going to be taking a hit there. So in my mind, you keep him, you move on with Landon Dickerson at left side, you just move Sayamalu to the right side. Hopefully fits there. And ultimately, if we have to move on from him down the line, that's okay. But we're not necessarily going to be hurting when we have a center in waiting already. But yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts about taking a center that high?
I'll go first on Jay. I'm with you, Sam. In my first mock draft I did this year, I had Linderbaum to us at 15. I just think he gets out, and specifically for Linderbaum, he gets out into space so well the way that Kelsey does, and it reminds me of him. Iowa kind of had a little more of a pro style offense, so I feel like he won't have as difficult of a time translating into the NFL. And look, you just don't know with Kelsey. You don't know how much is guaranteed. Maybe he tells the front office behind the scenes this is his last year. But I think it's always nice to have that insurance policy. While the Dillard pick didn't pan out, I thought the idea was right, and that they wanted to get someone when, Peters was obviously much older, but for when Peters was going to head out, obviously ended up being, ended up being Mailata instead. But I love the idea of getting Tyler Linderbaum in here specifically. I think he's a phenomenal prospect.
I mean, from the aspect of just drafting an offensive lineman, I mean, everyone who's watching this channel for any amount of football content knows I believe the game starts from the trenches out. I just think it's the foundation of the game. It all starts with the line, defense, offensive line. So while conceptually I wouldn't have a problem with it, I don't know. I feel like we're good enough at developing offensive linemen that doesn't need to be the first player off the board. Would I like to see offensive linemen drafted every year? I love that, just because I think it's an invaluable position to have depth at. But at the same time, I think we have much more needed skill positions that we really need to fill right now. And I'm not sure about the receiver. I prefer the receiver in free agency. I know Hunter was talking about that with, I want to say, Sterner beforehand. It might have been who was our first call? Big Play Slay.
Big Play Slay.
Yeah, I think you were talking about with him. I would prefer the receiver in free agency. So for me, I would really, really like to see with our first pick a linebacker. I just think you need a guy. We haven't really shown too much propensity to develop linebackers, and I would love to see a star linebacker talent just come in, assert himself as the number one guy. And I think a linebacker is pretty much the quarterback or cornerstone of a defense most of the time. That's usually either a linebacker or a safety. So to have a young guy take over that position in our defense, really gain ground and be able to assert himself as a leadership role for this team, I think would be fantastic.
Well said. Actually, I wanted to touch on the point that you made, Hunter, about the Andre Dillard pick. I was actually on board with it as well when we made the selection. It made a lot of sense. It looks bad now, but from what I hear, reports are that there's still interest in trading for Dillard, which is just amazing to me.
I wouldn't doubt it, man. He's had good snaps when he's been in.
That's true. I mean, there has been some flashes, but at the same time, it's just I feel like the writing's on the wall.
I feel you on the consistency isn't there. And he doesn't have any versatility, which is something which, honestly, I don't know when this started becoming a thing for offensive linemen. You guys would probably be able to scale this out better than me. I don't pay too much attention during draft season, not excessively, but at some point it became for offensive linemen when you're drafting them, they almost have to be able to play another position. Just with how many injuries go down these days, just with how key the position is. Teams want to do passing attacks more, so that puts more stress on offensive linemen. So typically guys are getting injured in pass blocking. And then you got to have people behind them to be able to play these air raid schemes and give your quarterback time. And now it seems like almost every star lineman that I know can switch between at least one other position, if not two sometimes. Even though that's miraculous. So I don't know. When did that happen? When do you feel like the whole offensive lineman flexibility thing started becoming a factor?
I think it started about 10 years ago, but it really, really popped off about 5 years ago. And it seems like you said, everybody's doing it. And some of these guys are coming out of college playing literally 3, 4, 5 different positions on the line before they get to the league, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's funny because we still hear complaints about the offensive line development for prospects as they come out. So it's like, wait a minute. Do you guys want them to play multiple positions, or do you want them to focus on a position and play quality snaps? So which is it? But yeah, it's every year battle.
It's rare to have a guy like Elgin Jenkins on the Packers who's just
exactly. He's the rare exception where he just does whatever. They're just like, oh, center down, we'll take him. Just guard down, we'll put him in there. Tackle, he can go.
Exactly. Which I mean, I guess that's what everybody's looking for, but it's just
that's next to impossible.
Exactly, man. It's not as common as they would hope.
Man, that's incredible. That's like I believe Dillard gave the example himself, which I'll give him credit for. The example I think he gave was it's like trying to write with your left hand. Like when you flip the side like that, that's not easy. You have to be able to like literally invert everything in your head about how you block, how you step, which way you're coordinating with the guard. Like that's a whole lot you got to flip. Which way the quarterback is dropping back, which way the rollout is. Everything's got to just flip in your head.
I just remember he said that before the game. And I'm like, why? Why did you give the Eagles fan base that vote of confidence? And it just and then it played out exactly how he said it would play out against Seattle. Like I would have rather gone into that game thinking, he's confident, he feels good, he thinks he can go play the right side, and then he goes out there and does trash, rather than him just saying, you know what, guys, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to do it on Sunday. And then it just played out exactly how we expected it.
Yeah, you're not lying. That was definitely a bad look. You don't give up before the game, but I don't know. He's a different kind of cat, which is kind of surprising. But
yeah,
it's actually kind of funny. You were mentioning our need for a linebacker. That was going to be my pick at 16. I was actually hoping we would go get Nakobe Dean. I think he has a lot of versatility to rush the passer, which we definitely need because I believe we're not going to re-sign Jannard Avery at outside linebacker.
True. That's a good point.
That's fair. Avery I forgot about that he's a free agent this year. That just came to my mind on the list.
There's so many of them this year. It's hard to keep track of all of them.
To give you like an exit question though, Sam, I wanted to ask, there's, like I mentioned, I would prefer to see the wide receiver come to us in free agency. I just think it'd be better to get an established talent since we haven't really shown the propensity to develop wide receivers. At least we'll maybe see about Smith, but if so with him, I'll more probably give it over to talent than anything else. But anyway, in terms of the free agent wide receivers, I'm sure you've looked through a few names, as even I have. Who are you looking? Give me a top 3 free agent wide receivers you'd want to see in Philadelphia. Give it to me in order too. So one being the guy you want here the most, and from there.
Okay, well, I'm kind of glad you ended with this question because this is one I've been mulling over for quite a while. I actually wrote an article on Gate City Sports about this, so please check that out. But basically, my number one guy, and this is going to sound like a hot take, but I really don't think it is Allen Robinson. That's not the hot take part. The hot take part is I think if we actually go and spend the money to get Robinson, we become a Super Bowl contender immediately. And call me crazy, but we've seen it in Philly before. When we went to go get T.O. with McNabb, he did not ever have a big play, red zone threat receiver until he got T.O. And then as soon as he did, we immediately went to the Super Bowl. And right now, if you look at all of our receivers, they're all fairly smaller guys. They're not anybody who's going to leap over a defender and catch a touchdown in the end zone, which is why we've been force feeding Dallas Goedert in the red zone, which is, I think, one of our big flaws on offense, because basically every time we hit the red zone, we're either going to run the ball, Hurts is going to take the ball in the end zone himself, or we're throwing to Goddard, unless we're further than maybe 15 yards in. So it's one of those situations where I think we need to go get somebody who's proven, like you said. And I think Allen Robinson, more than anything, has proven that he can play with less than elite quarterback play and put up big numbers.
That much is true. That's fair.
So
A-Rob's had to suffer through some quarterbacks. My goodness.
Exactly. And that's exactly why I think if he comes here and he pairs with Hurts, who might actually be the best passer he's had in the NFL. I know that's debatable depending on how you look at Blake Bortles early in his career.
No, we're not doing Blake Bortles here, fam.
I've heard some people make the argument for him. During that one season, they were decent. But my next guy on the list would be DJ Chark. The thing that scares me about him is he's really inconsistent. Like, he's had some really good seasons, but then he's gotten banged up and not really played all that well. And he also doesn't strike me as somebody that's like take over a game type receiver like Allen Robinson is. Like, he's definitely a good complementary piece, and he would be great to pair with Smith as a number 2. But I think in that event, Smith is still our number 1, and I'm not going to feel nearly as confident about a Super Bowl run with just that one piece. As far as the third guy, I think the third guy is actually most people's number 1, and that's Mike Williams. I actually, ironically,
that's my number 1. Yes.
Do not like Mike Williams at all. Sorry to throw that out there right after you said that.
It's all good, man. As long as you got reasoning, we're here for all the reasoning over here on Philly Inside. We accept all conflicting takes as long as you have reasoning.
That my exact reasoning is his catch rate is very suspect. And the thing is, whereas we were talking about Allen Robinson playing with poor quarterbacks, he has always had great quarterback play. He went from Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert, which are two of arguably the most accurate quarterbacks that we've seen in the past, probably decade in the NFL. Because of that, that really, really concerns me, because if you look at Keenan Allen, if you look at a couple other guys on their roster, it's not the same situation. So it's not as if a bunch of his targets are uncatchable. It's that he's not catching the ball when it's thrown to him. And that concerns me, because if you look at Jalen Hurts, one of the big concerns that we have with him is that his accuracy has left a lot to be desired. We saw it especially against Tampa Bay when he was overthrowing receivers by as many as 5 to 10 yards. So that's my main concern with Williams. And hey, he could totally sign and prove me wrong. And I hope he does if he lands here. But at the same time, I kind of hope we go a different direction.
I got you. Well, it was great to have you on, Sam. We appreciate the insight, bro.
Definitely.
Have a good evening, dog.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
I do have one thing. Sam does a lot of running for the Canadian Football League. He keeps up with the USFL. This man knows about just about every coach and player that's getting moved every which way. So go check out his writing. Go check out his Twitter. I put one of his articles right in the chat there. He's working hard. And I want to ask you right before you head out, record prediction, just a quick win-loss record prediction for the Philadelphia Stars this year.
Oh, Philadelphia Stars. Okay. Whew. So we were talking about this a little bit before. It's going to be rough. As much as I hate to say it, I think we're going to have a losing record. I think it's only going to be like I want to say there's 8 games in the season. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but it's probably going to be like a 3-5, 4-4, somewhere around there. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'm definitely rooting for him. I want Bart Andrews to succeed. I want the Stars to succeed. I actually don't really root for any other Philadelphia teams, but once the Stars came around, that was kind of my other team. So I'm hoping, but they got the 3rd pick in the draft, so we might get lucky, although it is a snake style draft. So we'll see how much that actually adds up to.
For sure. Well, hey, thank you again, Sam. We really appreciate you hopping on. I'm going to have you on the channel soon because I love your content. And yeah, have a great rest of your night, brother.
Absolutely. Once again, I appreciate you guys for having me on. And again, thanks for being, a shining example. And I really appreciate and love this call-in idea you guys got going on. I wish more people would do it because honestly, it's a cool way to get to talk to the people that you're following on YouTube already. So I hope you guys keep it up and I really enjoy it. So
hey, man, take care. Have a great evening. And we look forward to having you on in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Dude.
All right, man. Well, we have finished all our callers. And yeah,
we had some great callers tonight, man. We got to talk through a lot of different topics. Everybody had some good takes, some takes conflicting to our own, which I personally love, just because I think what I love most about any podcast I listen to, at least, is when they're forced to take on stuff outside of what they usually think. Yeah. So, like, I appreciated a lot of the comparisons people had out there today. And, bro, there's two things I really want to touch on. We usually have this run like an hour for just like us. I think we'll probably close out the caller section now and just like leave this for our closing thoughts. So thank you to everybody who did call in. We do this every Friday. If you do want to come in, feel free in the upcoming weeks. Hop in anytime. It's usually 7 p.m. Eastern. And feel free. We love interacting with you guys, getting to hear from you, get your sports takes, and come through in the future. But for closing statements, dog, there's two main things I want to talk to you about. First being your top 3 free agent wide receivers, because I think this is a big sticking point. And I believe you and me have the same number 1. I can give my top 3 really fast. My top 3 are 1, I have Mike Williams. 2, I have Chris Godwin. And 3, I have DJ Chark. My issue with Allen Robinson, I actually don't have Allen Robinson in my top 3. Just because my issue is, and I love A-Rob. I loved A-Rob's career. I followed him for a long time. The man was a disgusting football player. And on any other team, I think he might have had the argument for a Hall of Famer. Like he was incredible. I cannot emphasize enough how great Allen Robinson was in his career. But it's just the age that gets me, man. At a certain point, especially playing his play style, you need to have athleticism behind it. And there's nothing time takes from you more than athleticism. It's just a fact. So that being said, I gave you my top 3, bro. What's your top 3 and why?
Yeah, well, first off, Devontae Adams, because we're going to get him. So, you missed a pretty big one there, Sanjay. Sorry, man, but I had to call you out.
They're franchise tagging him, bro. Don't even.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. But probably Mike Williams, just because I think he fills more of a need for our offense right now. Again, boundary X receiver is the biggest need to me. And I just think, with the body control he has and the way he's able to go up and attack the ball at times, I think that's something, you give Hurts a guy to see if he can go up and make some of those acrobatic catches where maybe Hurts doesn't place the ball the best, or maybe Hurts just gives him a back shoulder throw and he adjusts really nicely, stuff like that. And, Sam made a great point about the red zone. Like, you can bracket Dallas Goedert in the red zone. If you put, especially he's going to be in the slot most of the time, you're probably not going to put him out wide and have him run a fade route. It's not really Dallas Goedert. You can bracket Goddard, and then you can bracket Smitty too in the red zone. Like, there are ways that they can take away these threats. Getting another big guy like that in the red zone, I think, would just be huge. So he's number 1. Godwin would probably be my number 2. Again, we've come a long way in terms of medical advancements and all that stuff. People can talk about Gallup all they want. Look, I mean, Gallup is going to be back in August. Like, that's a pretty quick recovery for a guy who just got hurt. I think he came back from what was like 6 weeks he was out or so. But yeah, like, I think Godwin is going to be fine. And then who was your third? I'm just curious. Did you have Chark?
My third, I think I had Chark. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I did a video on Chark, so you guys can go check that out if you want. I really went really in depth on him on that one, so I'm not going to go too in depth there. I think he's he's really one of the better options. Although I will, just for the sake of being diverse, I don't want to have the same exact 3 as you, because I think I would pick A-Rob or Chark here. I will go with Michael Gallup, because I think this is something a lot of fans kind of don't want him. Look, I really think you could get him on a 1-year prove-it deal. I really do. If you don't and he gets overpaid somewhere else, whatever. That's not a big deal. You still have other options in the free agency pool. You're not going to overpay for Michael Gallup. I think, you put him in an offense where in Dallas, he had all those other guys there with CD and Amari. And then you factor in how much they ran the ball too with Ezekiel Elliott when he was healthy. Gallup has really developed, and he played that boundary X role in the Dallas offense so much. We saw him against Michael Jaquette. I mean, we got a firsthand look at it. But look, he's a guy you can when you have single coverage, you can throw that go ball to him down the sideline, and he's going to go get it. I'd have to look a little bit more into his contested catch ability. I don't think I'd probably take A-Rob in that regard. Not probably. I definitely would take A-Rob in that regard. But look, I really do think Gallup isn't an obvious option. And we're not going to talk about Mac Hollins. I'll get to him in a second. But I think Gallup is a really, really nice option back here. So just that's more so for the sake of being diverse. I wanted to mention him. But I do really, really love both A-Rob and Shark for other reasons. So.
Also, I do want to shout out Drew really fast. I had no idea that A-Rob was there was just a year between him and Mike Williams. And the inch thing, I don't know about. I don't really care that much about an inch in terms of height. But I had no idea that age was that close. Crazy. So I appreciate the correction on that. That may change my opinion going forward. But that was good to know. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
And, bro, the second question I had, which you can feel free to, jump in if you got more after this, but the second question I had was, we saw something interesting go down. This is coming all the way back around to the Sixers. We saw something very interesting go down with the Sixers versus the Bucks in terms of one specific stat, which was rebounding. This entire year, man, something I harped on was we needed a secondary rebounder. These teams were just dragging Embiid away from the basket, and then we were getting boarded. And against the Bucks, now mind you, I know Brook Lopez was out, so you can argue that was one of the big driving forces of this. But against the Bucks, we actually out rebounded them by a decent margin. It wasn't just tight up one up against the other. I believe Maz pulled down 7, Niang had 8, Toby had 8, and obviously Joel with the 14. But do you think this rebounding is sustainable? Do you think this was just a freak show of a one-off? I was very fascinated by that because I really thought defensively, especially defensively rebounding, that we would suffer. But our guys have just been getting in there and fighting.
Yeah, no, I still think you're going to need some help in that regard. Look, I mean, there's a few teams that are kind of at the bottom of rebounding, like the Bulls. That's probably why we have the edge on the Bulls, because we just match up with them very well. And our matchups, we win every single matchup we have against them. But there's the Bulls and then maybe one or two other teams who are in deep in the playoff race, top contenders who are bottom in rebounding. But most of the other teams aren't. It's not even just that I think we need to have top tier rebounding. It's just that I don't think we can sustain being the worst rebounding team in the NBA. That has to change. And let's be honest, that was still the case with Drummond here. Drummond was a helpful part, but he was a backup center. He wasn't on the court with Embiid. That would not have worked well. We saw how Jahlil Okafor and Joel Embiid play together. I don't see where it kind of fits into the lineup. I don't see anyone on the buyout market. Maybe like Troy says, we bring in Moose back in here. That would probably be of help. But
that would probably kill Ian.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, Ian, after the sports year Ian has had, that might be the nail in the coffin. But yeah, and like Robert said, I think a lot of it was just true grit. That was a Philly win last night. But I think you need help. You need help there, in my opinion.
I got you, man. We got anything else you want to say before questions to go through, topics to hit? Or we've hit about an hour like we usually do. Want to close it out here?
Yeah, let's close it out, man. Well, thank you all for hopping on here. We appreciate you guys as always. We still got 10 of you guys here, and we're done the call-in section. So we appreciate y'all a ton. And yeah, we're just wrapping up here. So thank you again for watching. And Sanjay, anything you want to say before we sign off?
As always, God bless you all. Take care. We love these call-ins, getting to interact with you guys, get your takes. Be sure to come through for the next one, next Friday at 7, and we will see you all there.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to sign off here. Run, Booby, run. Fly, goes fly. And we will see y'all later. Peace out.